Bill Sheffield has been a leader in business, government, and public policy for most of 56 years that he's lived in Alaska. He served as governor from 1982 to 1986, following a business career in which he built a company that became one of the largest private employers in Alaska and the Yukon Territory. Since leaving office in 1986, Governor Sheffield has taken seats on several private and nonprofit boards. He served as an economic development consultant specializing in natural resource development, and he currently serves as the director of the Port of Anchorage. As director, Bill has developed a master plan for development of the port, increased port awareness, and the implementation of a massive expansion that started in 2004 and is to be completed by 2014. He's also a trustee at APU. He's a member of the advisory board of NSTAR Natural Gas. He's vice chairman of the Alaska Railroad Corporation's board. In recognition of this service to the railroad in the state of Alaska, the Alaska Railroad Depot at the Ted Stevens International Airport was named after Governor Sheffield in 1999. Please help me welcome Governor Bill Sheffield.
Well, thank you very much. It's always a treat to be here at least once a year to kind of give an update on the Port of Anchorage. And it's awful big. There's a nice turnout today, but you always get a really good turnout for your morning breakfast. I can't believe driving down the road at 6:30 in the morning. There's school buses on the road. There's kids. There's people driving, going to work. It's amazing what happens here early in the morning. The older you get, the more you like to sleep in a little bit. I remember White Keys was a substitute speaker one time at the Rotary before I got kicked out because I couldn't make the Tuesday or Wednesday lunch every week. He was a substitute speaker, and he got up and he said, "Well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here today, but if you don't think you get your money's worth, why just take some silverware or some china." Well, you know, it doesn't take anyone long to live in our state and figure out how important our transportation infrastructure is to businesses and to Alaskans. It impacts virtually every aspect of our lives. And where you live and work in this state really colors your perspective on transportation. Alaskans living in urban areas like Anchorage usually think of roadways first and foremost. Down in the southeast and out in western Alaska, it's marine and air. If you live in the interior, your mind may gravitate toward air and rail and road and our rivers. Regardless of where you live, where you are, transportation is one essential asset that all areas of the state have in common for economic development. Transportation projects allow our economy to grow. They provide jobs, increase access to our resources, and ensure a future for our communities. For a resource state, that is our reality. We also are a state that relies on more than just one mode of transportation. Our lives are directed by intermodal transportation systems. And in order for our economies to work, the entire system needs to be healthy. With Alaska's unique challenges and our limited financial resources, it is pretty tough to focus on all our transportation needs at one time. Mike Barton knows that, former Commissioner of Transportation. Take, for example, the stimulus funding approved for Alaska. The clear emphasis is on roads and bridges and rail, and I get it. There are formula pots of money for those modes of transportation. But in Alaska, this doesn't begin to cover all of the modes of transportation that we rely on. But this strategy of funding a road here and a road there, or fixing a bridge that should be replaced, places too much emphasis on segments of transportation rather than looking at and addressing the whole. When business considers coming to Alaska, especially the resource development industry, they have to consider the entire transportation system at their disposal: marine, rail, road, and air. So in a state like Alaska, a non-contiguous state with population centers that spread out over hundreds of miles, the health of our transportation system is key to the health of our country and to our economy. And our transportation planning should focus on this, not just segments. And one segment that is frequently overlooked by the state and by the federal government are marine facilities, ports and harbors. But then again, I'm a port director, so I'm probably somewhat biased. I say this to all of you because it really drives my vision of our transportation networks in Alaska, and it always has. As a former governor, I know how tough it is to focus on the big picture and have $2 billion in infrastructure needs statewide when you only have $100 million to spend. As the past president of Alaska Railroad, I can attest to the challenges that the railroad has to keep the track maintained and operating, to keep freight moving. That's why we worked so hard a few years ago to get the Alaska Railroad into formula funding so it could rely on a certain amount of federal funds each year. So instead of placing a tie here and a tie there and a little bit of ballast here and keep the train on the tracks, we were able to put in thousands of ties per year and rail and welded rail and new equipment. And so what makes it work, and that was transferred, of course, to Alaska in 1985. But in a state that relies so heavily on intermodal transportation, we cannot simply focus on just one mode, and because it just doesn't work. The system will fail. It will cost businesses and cost Alaskans time and money. All of this has become more apparent when I started serving as a director for the Port of Anchorage. I've always known what a tremendous asset, economic driver the port is for our entire state. The port is just not an Anchorage port, it's a regional port. And for that reason, and given the national significance of the port to our military, it is incumbent upon us to ensure the good health of this asset. In 2001, when asked by Mayor Wirtz to come down to the Port of Anchorage to fix a couple of things, I realized pretty quickly that we had a whole lot of more than just a few things to fix. After 50 years of relying on the Port of Anchorage to deliver the goods to Alaska, we needed to replace our aged docks. This was our opportunity to build a modern, truly intermodal transportation facility that will always serve the next generations of Alaskans, that will connect to rail and will connect to roads and that will keep our economy moving. No doubt you've all heard me say that the Port of Anchorage serves 80% of the state geographic area of Alaska, with 90% of the goods going to those areas. Not only is the port infrastructure just downright old, it is underserving the needs of our state. In 2005, the Port of Anchorage hit the 5 million tonnage mark across the docks, and by most conservative estimates, we were not supposed to hit that mark until 2020. For the past couple of years, we have annually averaged more than 4 million tons of materials across our docks. That's nearly 5 tons of goods for every man, woman, and child in Alaska. It is completely safe to say the Port of Anchorage has surpassed its design and life and use. So